Thank you, Jeremy and Anna, for inviting me today. I'm very excited to talk to everyone about Toyota Connected. So first off, let me just ask, who here has heard of Toyota Connected? Now, not Toyota, Toyota Connected. Yes, oh, wow, very, very cool. For those of you who don't, so Toyota Connected is a brand new company. We are about 3 minutes away from the corporate office, and we are a for-profit company. So what we do is we are the arm for data science and data engineering for Toyota. We are a startup, and a startup in the sense that we truly are a startup. We have about 200 engineers. We work in a different building. Our culture is completely different than Toyota Motors North America, but we are powered by Toyota, so we have a lot of the backing by the parent company. And that really allows us to do a lot of things very innovative, a very different type of culture where we're empowering our team with the ability to make decisions and to follow through on those decisions and to really own it. As I mentioned, it's a completely different office. And so if you walk into our office, you will notice that just the moment you walk in, we have a dog-friendly policy. We have free lunches for everyone. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite things about Toyota Connected is they actually label the vegan soups, which is something that makes me very happy. But let me talk a little bit about where we see things and kind of where Toyota Connected fits in. We see that the car is really an essential piece of the Internet of Everything. You really start out with the Toyota Connected car. And so what is that? Well, behind the scenes, every Toyota Connected car coming out since July 2017 is able to transmit sensors of data representing various things, such as whether or not the windows are on, GPS, speedometer, odometer, steering angle. But all of these we do only with the consent of the customer. So these vehicles actually are dead when you go to the dealership, but we actually walk you through some of the various use cases for our Safety Connect program, and this is what I'll be talking to you about today. However, we only enable it once the customer understands what data we're collecting and how we're using that to create new and exciting services for them. So the average customer drives about 48 minutes per day. About 500 plus unique data points are generated every 200 milliseconds. And that really comes out to about 7.2 million data points per connected vehicle per day. So a lot of data, petabytes of data. Well, what do we do with it? First and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, right, data services that drive customer satisfaction. So we're looking to create new and exciting services that make driving safer, more convenient, and fun. The next is we use that data to really derive new insights to make our products better. In the very short time that Toyota Connected has been around, as a matter of fact, we've only been around for 2 years now. We've had a number of milestones. So in April 2017, we worked with the folks in Toyota Connected Japan on a project called Japan Taxi, which I'll be talking about in just a moment. The connected car went live in July of 2017, and that was for the model year Camry 2018. We then looked at actually using that data into what we call a car share pilot on the island of Hawaii with a company called Servco that does our distribution for our vehicles there. And then finally, we actually went live with the car share pilot we now called Hui, as well as going forward with Avis to be able to connect the vehicle in their rental transactions. So Japan Taxi was our first really kind of dive into the connected car, because this was done before vehicles in the US were connected. Actually, this was done before vehicles in the US or Japan were done. So for this pilot, we teamed up with TRI. So for those of you who don't know, TRI is the research arm of Toyota that focuses on the autonomous vehicle. And so this was an opportunity to really work with them to collect data and provide them data from actual people driving taxis in Japan. And so with this project, what we did was we grabbed these, what they're called aftermarket devices, and we installed them in 500 vehicles. And for 8 hours a day, every day, and actually it's still going now, we are collecting the data from these trips. And so this data, if you look here, this is actually a really quick video of our application that was created. In this application, each dot represents a vehicle, and all of this is collected in real time. You can actually drill into one of the vehicles and then see the vehicles driving. This one here is driving late at night, our morning, night in Japan, on the streets. Now, the question is, well, what do we use this for? So SK showed a demo of YOLO. This is actually what we're doing. Leveraging machine learning, object recognition, and then providing that and those videos to Toyota Research Institute to be able to take what they're finding and create their own algorithms to improve the autonomous vehicle. Another thing we do is, outside of research, we look at new ways to provide new services for our customers. So one of the things is we're developing a driver score that's going to be live probably in the next 4 to 6 months. Actually, the team that's working on it is sitting in the back there. And they can talk to you more about that if you're interested. So what a driving score is we have a set of metrics or rules that NHTSA provides, and that really is to be able to take what we call CAN bus data, or data that's coming out of the vehicle, and derive insights and scores on different types of events. So primarily we're looking at longitudinal and lateral g-force. You're looking at the location, speed, and then how much you're applying on brake pressure. So to give you an example, we drill down into 4 trips. The green will represent what we call smooth driving. You're not going past the speed limit, you're not doing any harsh braking, you're not having any harsh right turns or left turns, or overspeeding. The red there is what we would call harsh braking. Then you got that maroon, which I don't think you can see well in here, which represents overspeeding. So above the line there, you got the harsh acceleration, and here I don't think we have any harsh left turns. So what does this look like when we're actually drilling down even further? So here's one of those trips, and as you can see here, the green, just drill down. Can you guys see that? Okay. So the green shows that the person currently driving here is driving 37.96 miles per hour. The location at that point is 40 miles per hour. Therefore, it's green. There's no harsh braking. There's no longitudinal or lateral g-force popping out. And as you can see, for the most part, this person is driving smooth. Just about 15 seconds later, you can actually see that this person is now overspeeding. The speed limit there is 30 miles per hour, and this person is going 49.56 miles per hour. And so keep in mind, every one of these dots is a single second. And then, 4 seconds later, this customer actually hits the brakes really hard, and now you're able to see that red line, or the red circle, which shows harsh braking. And so the question is, well, that's great information. What are we doing with that? We're able to provide the customer with driving tips. These are tips that will help them understand an overall trip score, what their acceleration is, what their speed is. We are able to now take these tips and show them how they can get better miles per gallon. We're also able to allow them to say, hey, well, this is my data, and I want to actually do something with it. So they can take this data and they can send it out to another service called Toyota Insurance Management Services. And then if they have good driving, they're able to then send it out to the company, and then they can then have different insurance companies bid for discounts for that customer. Question?
Quick question. So for the U.S. model cars, do they have these sensors already? Are they in the market, or is it coming?
So U.S. models, starting with Camry 2018, which came out in July, has these sensors now. These sensors are actually dead at the dealership. You have to actually go through a walkthrough where the dealer talks to you about what the data is collected, how it's being collected, and then you can actually opt in. We don't collect the data unless you opt in, but it's for the most recent Camry, the upcoming RAV4, upcoming Avalon, and I think there's a handful of Lexus vehicles as well. CNN2. Question? Will it be made available for fleets? Yes, absolutely. That's actually, fleet is one of our #1 customers. So because the fleet customers, they want to know things that are a lot more in the details in terms of vehicle location. They want to understand, are the windows open or closed? Has the car been in a collision? What is the fuel level? So a lot of things that I mentioned earlier with the Avis project, that's actually gone live for Avis's fleet to be able to understand the health of the vehicle and to cut down on the time that they're spending on the checkout process.
Related question, are you saving any of this data in a blockchain for reliability of data or kind of trust of data?
Not in blockchain, but we do have a data store that the data is being saved in, yes. Question?
Hi, why do you call it a G-force? Because what you are really measuring is stress, strain, and shear forces. G-forces are typically used as a nomenclature when you have a force large enough to make it feel like a percentage of gravity, at least half a G.
Right. So the transfer of the G-force, so from kinetic energy to potential energy, that's how we are able to understand our harsh cornering, harsh braking as well. It's not just the brake pressure at all.
I understand that part, but what is the maximum G-force you have actually measured in cars? Because from my understanding, you will never reach the level that we physicists would usually call it a G-force.
Well, true. But I think the way that we look at it, there is a NHTSA guideline, and they actually consider it as G-force. So, all right.
Is that a real-time feedback? So I can say I'm away, it's 95?
You can actually get it after the trip is completed. So we do it at a trip level. We do have the potential to provide it at real time, but we actually only provide that at the end of the trip, for at least the next version that will be coming out. All right. So the next type of service that we provide is what we call collision detection. Very similarly, right? We're looking at the longitudinal and lateral G-force, the acceleration, brake pressure. And so in this, I like to say that, the data really tells a story. And this is just an example where we have the longitudinal, lateral, and vertical G-force. So that's X, Y, and Z axis here. And here you can see the acceleration by that, it's kind of like a red line. And so as the customer is driving and they're accelerating, you can actually see that in that line coming down here, and it goes to about there as they stop. Now, the moment you see that transfer in energy, you can see it right about here. And that's actually what we're able to use to understand collision notifications. The problem is that this person was lucky because the airbag was triggered. And the way the sensors are set up on the vehicle, as well as how we are measuring that, we're able to understand front collisions. And we've been doing that for many, many years. But the problem is that the airbag does not go off when you have a rear-end collision or a side collision, or if you were to flip over and find yourself in the bottom of a ditch. And so because of that, we realized that we have to now start really looking at the data a little bit differently and understand that some of the airbag sensors that, yes, they do trigger a notification and they will call the paramedics. These are things that are not enough to ensure the safety of our customers. So what we've been doing is now looking at classifying crashes into 3 different buckets, and then also looking at how do we eliminate some of the false positives. So for instance, this is the area right here where you're going between 5 and 8.5 in the magnitude of a G-force. And that's where we traditionally will have airbags deployed. If you then go and look at areas that are not being looked at, these are things that, like we mentioned, the high, medium, low-speed crashes, though, where it is a side impact, where it is a rear impact, where the car is flipped over. Now, those are the areas where we need to be able to understand, but also eliminate the false positives. So harsh braking and harsh cornering are absolutely false positives, but other things like hitting a shopping cart, well, that's not so bad. What about going over a speed bump? Well, that's also not a collision. And so we have actually teamed up with a number of companies to pull in data so that we can actually compare some of the things like video data, like data where they've actually done crash tests, and then pass those through our models to be able to derive kind of what we call the area of opportunity, or the areas where we can now provide newer and better services than were available before.
I got
And
a
so-
question.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little bit back into the sensors that you have in the car. How do you differentiate different drivers driving the same car?
How do we
Like-
differentiate different drivers?
Yeah, like my wife and I, we share one of those Camrys. How
Uh-huh.
do you differentiate me from my wife when driving?
So today we're not currently doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the future, though, I think we will, have, head units that are very much like, Netflix, where you can actually use a profile, and based on that profile, it'll be able to, keep your settings, from a temperature perspective, what radio stations you listen to, what are the places that you like to eat to do recommendations. However, we don't have that today in our vehicles.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes.
So you seem to be generating a lot of data, right?
Mhm.
Even metadata or even intermediate data from your analysis. Can you speak a little bit about metadata management in your company, and how is, you have new data scientists, or how do they find the data, or how do they find the insights that somebody else has found, and also about the cloud? Like, are you using cloud at all, and where do you see the evolution of your data?
Sure. So today we do use cloud, and we only use cloud for what we're doing today. In terms of metadata management, so when this application was created, we had specifications coming from our product engineers that really defined all of the data. It's, this data is telemetry data. It's all structured. We have data dictionaries on everything to help, the data scientists understand what it is. Now, one of the things that we are doing is, as a new company, we are, starting really on our journey to data science. I was actually hired on to build out a data science practice for the company. And so what we do is we really kind of have polled our data scientists, and we're also using some data scientists from Toyota Motor North America to meet up and really kind of talk about some of the things that are possible with this data. There's a lot of things that we see from a services perspective that we can provide the customer. We only do this to provide services for the customer. There's no really there's no reason to use the data unless we can make our products better and we can provide these new types of services for our customers. So, like, for instance, in this case, we envision that when our collision notification is ready to be deployed, this is something that will be calling you over the telephone and having someone saying, "Hey, we noticed that there's been a collision. Are you okay?" If someone doesn't answer, we dispatch a unit to that location. Gosh, I can't even see that. Being able to essentially pop up something on their phone and saying, "Do you need to send assistance?" Again, you got to remember, there's going to be these low impacts. Someone gets rear-ended. We want to be able to be there for the customer. And you never know how bad the accident could be, or the children in the back. These are things that, again, I think that there was a statistic that one of our data scientists provided me, which was 1 out of every 10 collisions that ends in a fatality could have been prevented if we had the ability to get someone dispatched quicker. And for me, that's something that I'm definitely looking towards seeing what we can do on our side to make a difference there and to make our vehicles safer. So, I think we've talked a lot about what we do as a company. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about is from a company culture, we are, absolutely focused on bringing in the best talent to Toyota Connected and really trying to, help folks understand what we are all about, what we do, and entice anyone that might be interested to work for us. So we have a number of open positions, and please come see me if you're interested. Thank you. Yes.
I have a question about, again, the data itself. So, obviously a lot of this data is first identifiable for your customers. How long do you guys typically keep the data? Like, I know you mentioned that the credit program goes in and you guys are still collecting that. Do you have time limits in terms of how long you keep it? Or?
We do. It really depends on the data. A lot of the data we actually anonymize if we need to use it further than, I think it's like 60 days. We also are implementing what we call GDPR compliance. Does anyone here know what GDPR is? I think maybe some. Okay, it's basically what it does is it's a great framework for privacy that they've implemented in Europe, and we've decided to implement it globally on our solution. And what it is it makes sure that the customer is at the center of their data. They own the data, and they are able to ask us at any point to show them what it is that we're doing with their data, how much of the data do we have, and if they ask us to delete it, we can do that for them as well. Because really, at the end of the day, you got to think about it. We're not Facebook. Facebook has a model where they make their money through advertisements. We have already made our money by selling the customer vehicle, and what we want to do is provide new and interesting services to make them love their vehicle more, and also to make sure that the next car they buy is going to be a Toyota.
GDPR being that law that's like causing all the companies to price policies.
Yes, it's more than just the policies. It's the way they handle. It's the transparency of the data, what they're doing with it, how they're using it. All of this has to be above board. And actually, I'm really excited to say, last week, or actually this week, I'm sorry, I'm still a little jet lagged here. I just got off the plane from Europe. We opened up our European office, and one of the things that was, a really big topic was GDPR and ensuring that we would be 100% compliant with the new policy. And with their programs, we are, and we're going to be moving that into the global solution in the next few months. Yes.
So we see a lot of incidents nowadays with parents leaving their kids in their cars. Is your company doing anything to prevent it or proactively detect any cases so you don't see that more in the future?
Yep, really great question. At this moment, we're not, but it's definitely something that I think we should look into. I think it's a major problem, and I think the reality is the technology is there. I think it's a matter of us prioritizing those types of use cases to put in the car. And keep in mind, we're a new company. We're just starting. In some senses, we're catching up with some of the competition. In other areas, we're really moving forward quickly with like some of the things we're doing around collision notifications and what I call high precision collision notifications. Yes.
Besides that driver score, do you actually use any of that data to provide like a reminder for a service of certain parts, something simple from the oil change or changing to a problematic part, survival analysis?
Yes, actually, we do that today already. That's not done through our company. What we feel is that Toyota Connected will be working more on predictive maintenance. So being able to, here's all of your vehicles. And I like to think of the data that we collect very much like, human beings, right, go to a doctor. And when they go to the doctor may ask you a question. And they say, well, are you a smoker? And sometimes these guys are, no, I don't smoke, right? And of course, and a smoker, will sometimes say that. I don't know why, but, I know I did when I used to smoke. And, and if you do that, after, 20, 30 years, all of a sudden, cancer, right? What are you going to do about it? Very similarly, the vehicles that are brought into the dealership, a lot of times, people aren't saying, well, yeah, I was burning out and I was, hitting it really hard over the bumps, and they never say that. They say, oh, I got a noise here with my engine. But again, the data tells that story, and so if we collect enough data and tie it back to repair orders, then the endpoint, essentially the features are now going to be, I've repaired this engine for this issue, and I've repaired this battery, or I replaced this battery. And then you can take the data that happened before it and being able to use that as training to now be able to do predictions. So you can see, well, gosh, of course, the battery is going to die out because the person decides to, turn on the radio for 2 hours while they're working out in the garage. And that's something now we can now warn them about and say, hey, we're seeing high battery or electric usage. You need to stop this in order to ensure that you don't have to replace your battery.
How far are you in rolling out intelligent Toyotas, which are not driven by anybody but self-driven vehicles? Say for example, smart cities, right?
Yep.
Toyota to Toyota. Nowadays you're servicing Toyota to Toyota. In the junction, if you go at a specific speed, you hit it right on. How are you guys managing so far in this way?
So to be honest, I can't answer that question. I don't know. That's actually TRI, and they're the team that's working on that. We work with them to provide them data on the existing connected cars and to help them really fine-tune their algorithms. But yeah, your guess is as good as mine, to be honest. Yes.
Yeah, hey Brian, I watched, this is fantastic by the way, I watched some of the Zuckerberg interview, and he was talking about how they are collecting so much data now that they have a hard time looking at most of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys just launched in July, I'm curious about the percentage of folks that are opting in,
Mm-hmm.
and then how you plan to scale to be able to get visibility into the data economically, because it's eventually going to end up being a lot of data, assuming that high percentage of people opt in, see value in it, and more of your car models are connected, right?
Yeah. Well, it is a very high percentage. I can't really reveal how high it is, but
Yeah.
the thing is, you got to remember. I mean, so even me. So I bought a Toyota Camry. Mostly because I wanted to understand the full experience. What is it that our dealerships are truly saying to the customer, and just so I could understand, and be able to talk about it as a Toyota customer. And I was actually very impressed with the way they walked me through everything and how they showed us, these are things that you can do to enable these services, and this is the data we collect. And the reality is that when my wife is driving the car, of course I'm going to opt in. Why? Because I want Safety Connect. Why? Because if she's ever in an accident, right, they're there for her. And these are services that I think, people are going to opt in for because they provide a genuine, value add to the vehicle. I bought the vehicle also because it has what they call Smart Sense, to be able to understand if someone's to the right or left of me before I'm making a lane change. So all of these really kind of come down to safety features, and I think it's, from a scale perspective, we definitely recognize that the cost to be able to provide these services is going to be something that we're be grappling with. We're absolutely looking at ways to optimize the algorithms, to optimize how we're storing the data, how much we're storing, what specifically we're storing, to really only hold the value add attributes to be able to do these algorithms and provide these services. I think we're out of time, so thank you very much.